Good morning again. Here's another little story from a bygone era. In today's changing world, rapidly changing world, I've been telling, or I'm starting to tell stories about my past, about the many, many years I've been traveling, and some of the incidents that have happened to me along the way, to record them for posterity and also for family, that sometime in the future will not even recognize the world that we have now, most likely. But first of all, I'd like you to meet my son, Kyle. Kyle. Not really my son, but I inherited him as part of the family when Irene and I got together. And a little while later, we were living in Dermageti, and she said, would you mind bringing my brother and my sister up here to help them go through their education? So we did. And Carl's been with us now for about 2.5 years, I think. He's an honor student, started off doing engineering, but now he's doing nursing. Yeah. I said to him, why do you want to do nursing? He said, lots of girls doing nursing. Yeah. He's also a very keen volleyball player and does incredibly well. They go down the road each afternoon and play volleyball, and he came home last night making more than the average daily wage of a basic worker in the Philippines, which is pretty incredible. Yeah. One way of working your way through college, I suppose. Anyway, I'm going to tell you some stories. If you like the stories, please press subscribe and you'll hear a lot more in the future. When I was 15, I ran away to sea. When I was 17 and 8 months old, I wound up in England, left New Zealand, spent some time in Australia, ran all around the Pacific on various ships, and wound up in England in the dead of winter, about November, freezing cold, and in those days I had about, I think from memory, 180 pounds in my pocket. This was back in about 1968, so long time ago. I joined a ship, did a couple of trips, and a year or so later, I joined a ship that left Liverpool, heading down towards South America. And we called into a place called Tampico. No, Tampico's in Mexico. Tampa, I'm sorry. We called into a place in Tampa, in Florida. This was in the time of the world where the world was again, then as it is now, in an incredible state of flux. The Elvis Presley was shaking the world in America. The Beatles were shaking the world. Miriam Makeba was singing her Click Click song and Pata Pata. And it was a wonderful time of innovation and change. Woodstock, Vietnam was on. I was on a ship that was running down the east coast of Africa at one time in the Biro Patrol, keeping oil out of Rhodesia. The world was in a lot of flux then, just as it is now. We called into Tampico, and we got there about 4 or 5 in the afternoon or something. We had dinner, and there was a group of about 8 or 9 of us decided to go up the road and see if we could find somewhere to have a drink. Now, I was probably 18, 19 at this stage. Very, very young, very stupid, very courageous, just out to see the world, because I was brought up in New Zealand. And in New Zealand in those days was like the backside of the world, you know. It was a little bit that dropped out of the backside of Australia and was still floating around in the Tasman there somewhere. And all I wanted to do was to get out of the place. That was my sole ambition. Get out of New Zealand, see the world. People were landing on the moon, and I was stuck in this bureaucratic toilet down there. New Zealand's a wonderful place now, but in those days, it wasn't. So there was 8 or 9 of us decided to walk up the road in Tampa in Florida. Tampa is probably also a very, very different place than it was today than it was then. Then there was a lot of vacant land. There was a few buildings here and there. But there was one big building, and I remember distinctly that it looked like a church, right? But it had this wonderful, wonderful music coming out, all this jazz music coming out of it. And I didn't know much about jazz at that time. Still don't know an awful lot about it, but we thought, okay, let's go and find out what's going on. It had bar written out the front, so we figured that, she must be able to get a drink there. So we walked in, opened the door, and I remember distinctly, I was one of the guys right in the front of the 8 and 9 of us. The place was full with laughter and music and carrying on. We opened the door, stepped inside, and probably 25, 30 black faces turned around and looked at us. And the laughter stopped. The music kept going in the background. We stopped. We all looked at each other. And these faces had angry eyes. They had tight mouths. They had hunched shoulders, many of them. You could see that they were ready for trouble. You know how when you feel threatened, like a dog, you hunch your shoulders and and we thought, what is going on here? Yeah. It looked like a church from the outside. It also looked like a church from the inside, because it had these big wooden paddled walls running down each side, and it had wooden tables with like bench seating, but there was an aisle going straight down the middle to the bar at the far end, you see. Now, we'd opened the door. We only had 2 options. You either go to the bar or you turn around and walk out. I think that any sensible person would have turned around and walked out. Unfortunately, sense is not a strong characteristic in my personality. And so, being one of the smallest in the group, a little runtler like I am, only 5'6" and about as wide as a weed, I just walked straight down the aisle and up to the bar, and the guys followed me, you see. Every eye in the room followed us, not a sound. I remember halfway down the aisle, the music stopped. It was a jukebox playing. A jukebox playing. A jukebox is like the old version of the karaoke of today. You know, you put a coin in the slot, you press a number, a record comes down, the stylist comes down and plays the music, and it won't play again until you put another coin in it. That's the old version of karaoke, but not many people sang along to jukeboxes. It was just in the background. Halfway down the aisle, the music stopped, which meant everything went deathly quiet, and that's what it felt like. It felt like, hey, this might be a bar, but it feels like a church of the devil, because it was like all these black monsters. You know, I've got nothing against black people. I don't mind if a person's black, if they're white, if they're yellow, if they're brown, if they're green, or if they're tan. I don't mind if they're brindle. I don't mind if they come down from the moon and they're made of green cheese. It doesn't matter to me, you know. People are people, as long as they can hold a good conversation, as long as you can have fun and they can laugh. I'm happy. I'm happy to enjoy them. I've been to too many places and seen too many things now to worry about such a silly thing like the color of somebody's skin. But in those days, I was only 18 or 19, and I was halfway down the aisle, and the only sound was our footsteps walking down the aisle towards the bar. We walked up to this bar, and the guy standing behind the bar, I probably would have come up to about his chest, you know. These guys had, all of them, everywhere. They had muscles like you wouldn't believe. They had wrists bigger than my thighs, you know. And
like a giant. It's like a giant.
Giant. Well, they were for me giants. They really were. And they were angry giants. Obviously very angry.
Why they are so angry with you?
Well, that's what the story is about. Because what happened, we got to the bar, pardon me, and I remember this pass as clear today as it happened then, and that was like 45 years ago, more than 50 years ago. I was the one who walked up to the bar first and said to the barman, looked up at him and said, please, sir, could I have a beer? Wasn't quite that bad. I said, could we have a beer, please, for each of us? And he said, where are you guys from? And we said, we just came in on a ship down here. We're from London. We just came in on a ship. We just came up the road, heard all this wonderful music, thought we'd come in for a drink. And he stepped aside and waved his hand to all the other people in the church. And he said, hey guys, they're limeys. They just come in a boat. Don't worry, they're okay. You see? Limeys is a term that was given to British sailors in the days of the old sailing boats, when they used to be at sea for a long, long time. And without vitamin C, they used to catch scurvy. Scurvy, amongst other things, will make your skin go yellow, make your eyes go yellow, your teeth will fall out. And they didn't know what caused it for a long, long time, until somebody discovered that it was a lack of vitamin C. So once they discovered that, they used to take concentrated lime juice on the boats, and they used to feed it to the crew to stop them from getting scurvy, you see. So he said, it's okay, guys, they're limeys, they've just come off a boat, you know. And everything just relaxed. You know, it was amazing. Everything relaxed. We wound up sitting around with some of the guys, but the reason that it was so uptight was the night before, the very night before, there had been a racial riot in the town where a crowd of white guys had come in from another town just purely to cause trouble, you know. And there was a lot of fighting and a lot of trouble, and they thought that this was another crowd of white guys coming into their church to cause trouble. We were just there to have a drink, and it turned out to be a nice evening, but from memory also, we didn't stay all that long. Just a little story about Tampico in Mexico, different cultures, the way people react sometimes when it's unnecessary, and how come people become afraid of things that they don't know. I mean, they instantly thought we were there to cause trouble. We had no idea why they were angry with us, but it was very obvious that they were. When we found out, we understood, you know. We just said to them, no, look, guys, we're not here to cause trouble. We just heard the music, and we just want to have a good time, you know. And it was fine. So, that's a little story of when I was 18. Wasn't my first trip to sea, but it was, I think, my third boat out of London at the time. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please press subscribe, help us out. Press like if you liked it. And also press that little bell there, which will give you a reminder of any future posts that we put up. Also, make any comments that you'd like to, you know, anything you'd like. Please, if you do, I will answer them. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope we'll see you in the next post. Thank you.